Hello everyone, hope you're all having a lovely day today. Today's video is going to be part one of a three-part series I'm doing. So I really want to move on to spiritual maturity and different topics of like how do we grow spiritually, but obviously we can't do that unless we have the proper foundation. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be making three videos. The first one being what is grace, second one being what is faith, and the third one being what is the gospel. And by doing this, we'll have the proper foundation so that after this, we'll be able to move on to more maybe spiritually mature videos or videos that are maybe concerning other topics. And this is not really to say that like people on this channel don't understand God's grace or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying at all. Rather, I just want to make sure that we're all on the same page so that when continuing on with other, maybe not necessarily more mature topics, but just like more like just simply other topics other than just the gospel, that we are all on the same page in terms of the foundation. So today's video is going to be about what is grace. What is grace? So when looking up the definition of grace, the words that were kind of, oh my gosh, synonyms. I was gonna say antonyms. Antonyms or synonyms? Synonyms were mercy, pardon, and another word that they used was undeserved. So essentially what grace is undeserved favor from God. In a sense, undeservingly, we are justified in God's sight. When you just look it up on Google, first three that pop up are simple elegance or refinement of movement, which is, I guess you could say, doing something gracefully, like prettily, which is not what we're talking about. Prettily, I don't even think is a word. Second one is courteous goodwill. And the example they use is like, at least he has the grace to admit his debt to her. So kind of like courtesy, politeness, manners, good manner. And in terms of the verb, which is the one that I think is the most applicable to grace when we say grace through faith, do honor or credit to someone or something by one's presence. And the synonyms that they list for that one, which are the ones that I believe are the most applicable to God, are dignify, distinguish, add distinction to, etc. So essentially God distinguishes us or gives credit to us undeservingly. So when we say we're saved by grace, we're saying that we're saved by God's mercy to distinguish us as righteous undeservingly. The biggest thing that we have to remember about grace is that it's undeserved. We don't deserve it. There's nothing we did to deserve it at all. And so what some people do is they turn the grace of God into lasciviousness. And what this means is that they accuse people of resting in God's grace as turning it into a license to sin. Like in Jude 1:4. Most people think it's people who use God's grace as a license to sin. It's actually talking about people who are accusing God's grace as a license to sin. So essentially people who are trying to bring you under the law by being like, no, it can't just be by God's grace because that's just a license to sin. Like, oh, so you can just sin all you want without any consequence or whatever. A good example of this can be found in Romans 6:1-2. What shall we say then? Shall we continue in sin that grace may abound? God forbid. How shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? So essentially people were saying like, oh, what, should we just like sin all we want so that grace may abound? But that's not what God's grace makes you want to do. God's grace makes you want to live for him and serve him. He says, how shall we that are dead to sin live any longer therein? And as I've said many times before, this doesn't mean that we're necessarily never going to struggle with sin again, but we know that God's grace isn't something that makes us just want to go out and sin a whole bunch. So I hope this helps whoever needed to hear this. The next video that I upload will be the second part, which is what is faith, and then the third video will be what is the gospel. If you ever have any comments, questions, or concerns, totally do not hesitate to leave me a comment down below or shoot me an email. And as always, have a lovely rest of your day. God bless.